all of this incredibly valuable information gets returned in a matter of nanoseconds. I just can't even imagine now that I use it the way I do, doing this job without it.
Welcome to the EverTrue Innovators podcast, where we meet the innovative voices behind the ideas moving fundraising forward. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Innovators podcast by EverTrue. My name is Keith Maneri, and today I'm joined by my two fantastic fundraising minds that also happen to be my co-host, Madeline Turner and Hannah Davis. Okay, folks, this upcoming story is wild. It's basically a team of one
running a $5 million campaign,
which should not be possible.
And yet, using DonorSearch's tools, this fundraiser built a structured approach to identifying and prioritizing top prospects.
Let's hear from Ladue Education Foundation, winners of the Solo Fundraiser Impact Award. So Julie, thank you so much again for joining us today, and congratulations on being an EverTrue Innovator for this year. Could you tell us about yourself, your position, and the Ladue Education Foundation?
Okay, so my name is Julie Faree. I'm the executive director of the Ladue Education Foundation. The Ladue Education Foundation is the non-for-profit that supports the Ladue School District. Our district is relatively small. We have about 4,000 students. We have 8 buildings, 1 high school, 1 middle school, 5 elementary schools, and 1 preschool. So in the scheme of things, and looking at other school foundations that we interact with at the National Organization of School Foundations, we're a smaller school district, smaller foundation. So I am actually an alum of Ladue Schools. I graduated in 1972, and both of my daughters are alums. They graduated in 2009 and 2013. So, and my siblings, who are both deceased, but they were both alums of the school district. So I have a very long history, of, being part of this district, and of course, a lot of passion about wanting to see our school district move forward in the most positive way possible. And just to brag, we are always in the top nationally, in the niche awards, or the niche ranking. We always rank either in the top 10 or in the top 20 school districts in the nation. Our elementary schools are pretty consistently number 1 in the state. So we have a very impressive track record. And so the foundation we feel very strongly about being instrumental in helping our district continue to be the top performer that it's always been, and we hope will continue to be. So I've been in my position for 7 years. In that time, we've done a lot of different things in terms of, raising money and looking at how we support our district. We're continually evolving, I think, in a positive way, growing, in a positive way. We used to do events and galas, and I think, to our credit, we decided to stop doing those big events because we are very resource poor here, if you will. I'm the only semi full-time. I'm supposed to be part-time, but I'm a full-time employee, and I have a 20 to 30 hour assistant who is much more than an assistant. She does all the bookkeeping. She's very collaborative in terms of strategy and how she's really an invaluable collaborator. And so, when you're this small in terms of, resources, you have to be very creative in terms of how you move forward, how you use those, how we I don't know. I'm struggling here a little bit, but Go
You're in
ahead.
the middle, you're in the middle of an important strategic transition right now.
Right.
Moving from primarily an annual fundraising towards a long-term sustainable endowment.
That's a beautiful way to say
Yes.
it.
So talk to us a little bit about what sparked this transition, and what you're hoping to accomplish and what's gone into turning the idea into an actual strategy.
So I was explaining how, we've started when I started 7 years ago, we had just actually completed a major capital campaign where my predecessor helped to raise $2 million for the renovations at our high school. So, on the heels of that, we were still doing some capital gifts through naming rights. We were still working on those. The foundation had a tradition of doing a big gala every year. So the big gala was really the primary way in which the organization was fundraising. It was through events that we built our annual campaign. So in my tenure, and especially, we had COVID. So COVID really changed everything. And after COVID, we still continued to try to do an event, but just became very clear. And also, working with and going to these conferences where we meet with other school foundations, and we just heard a very loud message that, the ROI just isn't there for events. So then we started working on a more traditional way to fundraise. And that's really DonorSearch. I started using DonorSearch in 2020, actually. I have to say that DonorSearch is really my partner at this juncture in fundraising, in building a campaign. So, I started using DonorSearch in 2020, but back to the narrative, we made the decision, our board, we have a 20-ish person board. And we and our board decided that we would eliminate the big gala and work on more traditional fundraising. We still have one community event that we do in the fall. We call it our Do Run, and it's a friend raiser. So we still do that to kind of create awareness. But that's something that we've done enough that it's not that much of a time and resource commitment for us, just because it's an easy one. So, we've just had to pivot and shift. And I will say that DonorSearch has really been my partner in terms of shifting away from raising money through events and fundraising, doing an annual campaign, fundraising, and building our donor base. And so that was sort of the evolution of, we came off a capital campaign. We were mostly focused on events, and then we realized that was, the ROI just wasn't there. And the good news is, once we stepped away from doing events, the very next fiscal year, we were able to raise more money than we had the prior year when we did an event. But then when you're able to focus on, donors and donations rather than putting on a gala, it's amazing what can happen.
Yeah.
So, so, so that, so that was sort of a turning point too, in terms of then you make the realization, along with our board. I don't want to, leave them out. We have a great foundation board, really smart people, alums, current parents, smart and engaged board. With our board, we made the decision, this annual fundraising also has its pitfalls, because you're dependent on, the economic situation, you're dependent on, your donors will come and go. And so we realized that the way for us to create sustainable fundraising, just sustainable revenue for the organization, was to look at building an endowment. So that was like 2 years ago. And so at that point in time, I think that was when Steve and I started working together. And over the past really 2 years, we have taken he's really sort of helped drive the bus in terms of how to do this, is taking our current base of donors from, like the past 5 years. Usually what he'll say is, we need to look at 5 years of donor history. And then taking DonorSearch and really using that tool to uncover of these 16, 1700 current and former donors, who out of that list of people can be prospects for a campaign, an endowment gift. So we've worked with the DonorSearch tool over that period of time, refining and building what I consider to be a pretty darn good list of potential prospects. But, DonorSearch is it's incredible what the tool will do. But and I'll speak for myself. I think unless I'm not a techie, I think some organizations that have a staff of people whose job it is, to manage their donor CRM, and they can probably work with this tool in a different way than those of us who are smaller organization. We don't have that person. So the only way for me to make DonorSearch a partner, and I'm going to call it a partner because DonorSearch is a partner at this point. The only way for that to happen is for me, for the executive director, the principals of the organization to have the ability to have that sort of one-on-one with a consultant. So
Yeah.
Steve has made this tool for me just invaluable. I couldn't, I couldn't manage without it at this point.
So glad to hear that for sure. You have covered a ton in terms of the evolution of first starting out with the tool to then now where it's kind of grown into, and then especially leading into this embarking on building the endowment. Are there any, I know you're still in the earlier phases of building that out, but are there any early indicators or, insights that kind of are leading you to believe that this is working and this approach is worthwhile to kind of shift away from maybe more event fundraising and then take this more strategic approach
Well,
with
I think we're
prospect
able to take
identification?
a strategic approach because of the use of this tool.
Hmm.
So here's the other piece that I haven't talked about. So as when we decided we wanted to embark on this endowment campaign to really build a sustainable future for the organization and a reliable income stream, so that fundraising then becomes really almost the extra. If you're able to build an endowment where you're going to have an income stream from that endowment, then your fundraising, you're not solely dependent on it, obviously. We thought, oh, well, maybe we should be bringing in a consultant because that's what, bigger organizations do that. They bring in the campaign consultant and they have a whole staff of people that works. Well, I have some former colleagues who are in that kind of consulting business, and I reached out to them, and it soon became clear that even to get any sort of help from a consultant, we were going to pay, $20,000 to $40,000, which that just doesn't make sense for us. We're not trying to raise, $50 million. The size of our, campaign goal is such that it just didn't make sense for us to spend that kind of money on a consultant. But a lot of what that consultant would do is the work that I'm able to do with Steve. So we're able to go in and qualify our donors, and build a list of viable prospects, which is, what would you expect from a consultant? That's what you would expect your consultant to be able to provide you. Well, I'm able to do that through working with DonorSearch and Steve. And oh, by the way, once I'm able to build that list, I'm also in there learning a whole lot about my donors. So, and the people who, keep our doors open here, all the people who support us and make it possible for us to do our work, we're able to learn so much about them. So, as I say, it just becomes such an incredibly useful tool. And it allowed us to move forward with a campaign um, without having to spend 20 or $30,000 on a consultant. We were able to use DonorSearch to build our prospect list and to as really a key, the most important step in launching this campaign. This is how we're going to do it. So now we're in the phase of, we're sharing some of these prospects with our board, to ask them to get involved and to help us and potentially meet with people. And, so we're moving down the path. We're building marketing materials, all the things. But, DonorSearch has really been our partner in all of this.
You've 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 talked a lot about how important this partnership has been to your shop. I think a lot of smaller organizations assume that major gift work or endowment campaigns are only possible if you have a full prospect research department or consultants. What would you say? What advice would you give to an organization at another small shop that may feel like this kind of fundraising just isn't realistic for them?
I would say using DonorSearch as your partner, it is realistic. Just because, I mean, I'm astounded. I every day I use this tool. Somebody calls or donates or whatever, and I want to know, who is this person? I want to know a little more about them. And maybe even I kind of know who they are, but I can put in somebody's name and address in that integrated search, and it doesn't even take 3 seconds. After I put the name and address in, DonorSearch is going to return me an incredible amount of very valuable information. Where does this person make donations? Where does what's this person's house worth? Do they have another home somewhere? Are they on a board? Are they an SEC insider? All of this incredibly valuable information gets returned in a matter of nanoseconds. I just can't even imagine, now that I use it the way I do, doing this job without it. Because as I say, it's just me here. Hi, you know, and I love what I do, but I mean, it makes it so much more, it just makes me so much more effective as a leader, than I would be without it. Otherwise, you're just flying blind all the time, and that's not a good thing. But, as I say, this is a tool that really, I feel, unless you're the tech department, you need some help in being able to use it and use it effectively. And I've learned so much from Steve.
And you've talked about obviously that you're building the foundation and the strategy for all of this, but looking a year from now, 2 years from now, what does success look like? How will you measure that this campaign is on the right track and that the strategy and foundation that you built set you up for that?
Well, obviously when the donations start coming in, so, hopefully when let's talk in a year.
Yeah.
We'll make a
Yeah,
we'll make
there's
a
no rule that
follow-up
you can't be an
appointment a year
innovator
from
2 years in
now.
a row, Julie.
Yeah,
We'll have you back on.
and then I'm going to say, oh yeah, man, we're halfway there. So this is the silent phase. We're doing it in the traditional way, which is a silent phase, which is us just really, I like to call it hand-to-hand combat. It's reaching out. It's those connections you're going to make with your prospect list, and you're going to have some help from your board. And I'm building sort of a cadre of people that I'm engaging in this process to help me. I'm building a sort of a little group of helpers. And so I feel very confident based on the list of people that we're going to be targeting, that we can get there. So a year from now, I hope to be talking to you about how we've, at least got $2.5 to $3 million committed. Then I'll be able to say, wow, look at me.
Yeah. Well, let's
We'll get
go.
it scheduled.
Look at
Yeah.
us. Look at
Yes.
us. Look what
We'll
we
go
did.
ahead and put it. Yeah, we'll go ahead and put it on the calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do it. Do
Yeah.
it. Do it. Hold me to it. I love it.
That would be, yes, I'll book it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Julie, and congratulations again on just everything that you're building. Also doing this. I mean, Madeline and I have both come from different orgs that have had smaller teams at times, and I think I've never been on a team of one. It's one and a half, let's say. So that's also,
Yeah, we're
I'm in
one and a
awe.
half over here.
I'm in awe of that as well, and
Oh,
just
gosh.
congratulations on everything that you're building. And we I'm excited to chat next year, circle
Yeah,
back and
let's do
talk
it.
about all of the great stuff that I know is going to come from this.
Yeah. So yeah, I just, I really, you guys, I think the tool that I'm in awe of it all the time. It's amazing, but it's really fun. I mean, when you're a small shop like this, I don't know, I can't imagine doing this work without it, now, especially now that I've been using it. I can't imagine. So I just hope that I know Steve always says that, most people aren't like me in terms of how they'll, utilize the tool. And a lot of, some of your clients don't even ever speak with, a consultant. But I think
Well,
that's
it
so,
sounds like you are pretty good at evaluating the resources that you have and getting the most out of them. So I do think
oh,
that
yeah.
I think any technology purchase could just be a
Yeah.
purchase of technology. And I think that one thing that I've pulled out of this is taking advantage of the partnership and the
Yes.
resources
Yes.
that go beyond just the piece of software, that
Hmm.
there's a team behind this tool that we're working and seeing the way other organizations are utilizing this tool at small and large shops. And so take advantage of that.